All right, today we're diving into a really powerful argument about Iran. It's a perspective that looks at the current situation and says, hey, this isn't some new crisis. Instead, it's the final collapse of a 200-year-old agreement that once kept the nation whole.
So, right off the bat, our source hits us with this really dramatic statement. It just sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? It's telling us that a massive shift is happening right now, a change that literally goes against the grain of Iran's entire modern history. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Okay, so to really get what that opening quote means, we've got to rewind a bit. We're going to start with what the source calls a legacy of balance. For 150 years, there was this principle of neutrality that wasn't just a political idea. It was the very foundation of Iran's sovereignty and its borders as we know them.
You know, there's a huge irony at the heart of Iran's modern story. For over a century and a half, you had this intense rivalry between the British and Russian empires. You might know it as the Great Game. And weirdly enough, this constant struggle between them created a kind of buffer. Neither side could let the other take over Iran, and this stalemate actually ended up protecting Iran's independence. It gave the country the breathing room it needed to become an industrial power, all on its own terms.
So this really unique window of time, this period of protected sovereignty, led to what our source calls the era of the builders. This was a time that wasn't really about grand political schemes. No, it was about a vision of building a nation from the ground up, using science, engineering, and pure industrial strength.
And you know, right at the center of this whole era, you've got figures like the Mostofis. Senator Abdullah Mostofi was the guy managing that tricky geopolitical balancing act. But it was his son, Bagher, who took that political freedom and turned it into something real, something tangible. They were, in a very real sense, the architects of a modern, self-sufficient Iran.
And this is where we get to a really key idea from our source: scientific sovereignty. Now, this isn't just about having your own flag or government. It's the idea that real, true independence comes from having your own internal skills, your own engineers, your own geologists, your own scientists, to develop your nation's resources for your own benefit, without having to bow to some other colonial power.
And this is what scientific sovereignty actually looks like when you put it into practice. What Bagher Mostofi did wasn't just a series of projects. It was nation building, pure and simple. Mapping the country's geology. I mean, that wasn't just making a map, it was the blueprint for the nation's entire future. The oil he found in Qom, that was for Iran, not some foreign corporation. He was all in on this vision of an Iran built by its own people.
An Iran built by engineers. Just let that sink in. Wow. That phrase really captures the whole spirit of that time, doesn't it? It was a vision of progress, of self-reliance, and of national pride that was rooted in creating real things and achieving industrial independence.
But here's the pivot. According to our source, that whole era, it's gone. This slide just lays it out in the starkest terms possible. On one side, you have the builders' era, scientific sovereignty, industrial independence, and on the other, the present, ideological management, and, as the text puts it, becoming a southern prefecture of Moscow. What a contrast.
Okay, and this is where we get to the core, the most, let's say, provocative argument in the whole piece. The claim is that this historical balance of power didn't just get a little wobbly, it is totally collapsed, and in its place, a new iron curtain has fallen.
So the argument goes like this. By handing over strategic control of massive ports like Chabahar and the Makran coast to Russia, that 150-year-old deal of neutrality has been shattered. The source is clear. This isn't a partnership. This is the final move in a very long game, and it's drawing a brand new line of Russian influence right across the region.
I mean, listen to this language, a southern prefecture of Moscow. That's not just strong, it's designed to paint a picture of a total loss of independence, a complete shift from being a sovereign nation to being, well, a territory managed for the benefit of another country.
And this is absolutely key to understanding the argument here. The source is saying, don't call this an alliance. They are drawing a direct line to the annexation of Crimea. The argument is that when Russian ships are policing Iranian ports, that's not cooperation. That's a form of occupation, a takeover of sovereign infrastructure.
So from this external threat, the analysis then pivots to look inside Iran. The source suggests that this isn't just about foreign policy. It's about a deep, fundamental split within the country itself, a conflict between the Iranian nation and what the text calls an occupying force. And the source really paints a picture of two different Irans, right? On one side, you have the Iranian people, the heirs to that builders era, the ones who respect the Mostofi legacy. And on the other, you have what the source calls the radicals, or occupiers, a ruling faction that, in order to survive, is basically plugging the entire country's infrastructure into a Russian-style system run by oligarchs.
Now, you might be sitting there wondering, okay, but what about the U.S. Navy? The Fifth Fleet is right there. Why can't they just put a stop to all of this? It's a fair question.
Well, the source breaks it down like a game of 3D chess. First move. Russian flagships are used to provide cover for Iranian oil transfers. It's a shell game on the high seas. Second move, they use state-backed insurance from countries like Russia, which completely bypasses the Western financial system and all its sanctions. And the third, the checkmate move, it's all a bet that the U.S. Navy won't risk firing on a Russian sovereign vessel and starting a much, much bigger war.
And it all boils down to this, really, the core moral argument of the piece. It's a powerful statement that real security, real sovereignty, can never, ever be bought by selling off the very foundations of your nation to another power.
So we're left with this massive question, aren't we? In this messy world of changing allegiances and incredible pressure, what's the real cost of national survival? And maybe more importantly, what is genuine sovereignty even built on anymore? Something to think about.